Thank you guys all for being here. Today's a very special day. I'm very excited about our guest, and it's going to be interactive. So I would encourage you guys, please, and ask everyone to please turn your cameras on if you can. Interact with Eric when he's going through his interactive question and answer period. It's a really, really good experience. If you put something into it, you'll get more out of it. So, but we wouldn't be able to do this without Shelter Mortgage sponsoring it. So first of all, a huge thank you to Shelter and Kim. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, digital applause. And Kim,
Shelter.
what's going on in Shelter Mortgage world?
Well, you know, we're still doing loans, so bring it on.
All right.
Everything's just nice and steady, still low interest rates. So we're here. Thank you for the opportunity today. I've heard Eric speak before, so I'm really, really excited to get to hear him a second time and be a part of this. So thank you, Mark.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And Niali, I think we have a video we're going to play. And if you've seen the video before and you've heard Eric speak before, and this is just twice as nice, but if you haven't, this gives you a little context about who Eric is before we get started.
Aloha, my name is Eric Saperston, and this is my story. I grew up in San Diego, California, and went to San Diego State University. When I graduated, I decided to take a year off, challenged by my mentor to make the trip more meaningful. I set off on a journey based on an old Chinese proverb: to know the road ahead, ask those coming back. I'd call up some of the most powerful people in the world and ask them out for a cup of coffee.
I am calling the former president of the United States.
So when I told my parents of my plans, they weren't too eager to fund it. So I had to come up with a creative way to keep the dream alive. So any of you folks take road trips, travel across America? Well, maybe you've seen me and not remembered. Because how I funded my trip is I would pull into rest areas with my Coleman stove, and I would sell sexy kind grilled cheese sandwiches made with love for $1. Well, guess what? People actually bought my sandwiches. And not only did they give me money, they also told me where I could go. In a good way. Places to visit, monuments to see, and they even gave me names and numbers of some of the most extraordinary people on the planet that I could call and take out for a cup of coffee.
Congratulations.
The reason? To find out the values they live by, the struggles they've endured, and what advice and counsel they would give to better prepare ourselves for the road ahead.
Your mind knows only some things. Your inner voice, your instinct knows everything.
I spent almost 4 years traveling across the country in a Volkswagen bus with 3 of my friends. We shot over 500 hours of footage, interviewed over 200 of the most extraordinary people on the planet.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, now get the hell out of here.
John Steinbeck has a great quote. He said, "Sometimes you take a trip, and sometimes the trip takes you." Well, this trip has taken me well beyond anything I had imagined. And now I find myself in Maui, Hawaii, with one prime directive: to inspire the world to live in wonder.
Thank you, Niali. All right. Well, I want to thank Ryan Graham and Anna Kalinsky. I know Anna's on vacation, but they introduced Eric to me and brought him into my world. So thank you guys. And he's someone who's had a profound impact on what I do every day as a leader and as a person. Some of you have had the pleasure of hearing him during one of Rick Hale's Rock Stars in Action Zoom calls earlier this year. And some of you may have had more intimate sessions with him, with your teens. And if you haven't heard him, you're in for a treat. He's been coaching some of the team leaders and myself for several months now, and I can't say enough positive things about the experience. In fact, I saw on Facebook earlier, Sean Damon used the word transformative when describing his experience, and I would say, you know, I feel exactly the same way. He's really helped me reevaluate my narrative, and by narrative, I mean the words I was using, the story I was telling myself and others, which, by the way, was not the most empowering story, but it was one I was telling for most of my adult life. So he's been helping me align my words and my actions to be consistent with my guiding principles and the goals I've set, so I can move through the world more intentionally as a leader and as a person and live into the very best version of myself. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and give a warm round of digital applause to Eric Saperston. How are you,
Thank
Eric?
you all so much. Hey, Mark, that was delightful. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, my friend. It's
My
been
pleasure.
a privilege to be working with you and hanging with you and getting to know you. Hello, everybody. Nice to see everybody. Nayeli, nice to see you. Get to see some familiar faces and some new ones. I'm coming to you live from Maui, Hawaii right now. I'm very excited to send you a warm aloha today on this crazy election day. How's everyone feeling out there? Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Good. I figure let's get. I think you said a good context for it to be conversational. I'm going to share some things, but I really want this to be an interactive gig. So just to get started, for us to all engage and bring a little levity and humor to such a serious day. Let's all go around, or not all around, but let's pick 2 or 3 or 4 people to just share their best jokes. I will go first. Let's see. Did you hear about the 2 antennas? 2 antennas, they were on a rooftop. They met, started dating, fell in love, and got married. The wedding wasn't that great, but the reception was excellent. All right. Look, I set the bar really low, so who can top that?
I have one.
Yay.
There's a tree, and he's alone in the woods, and all of his friends have been chopped down. And he says to the lumberjack, "I'm really afraid that I'm going to die alone." And the lumberjack says, "No, you're going to die a log." I think I told that badly. I forgot that he didn't have somebody to talk to. Anyway, never mind. It was funnier in my head.
You know what's really great is that was funny all the way around, just because how you handled that. It was funny all the way around. Thank you so much. All right, who's next? Not everybody jump really fast to tell a joke. Come on, there's 45 plus people here, 150 people here. Come on, someone's got a joke.
No.
They're not clean.
I can't think of one I can actually tell right here.
Oh, I have one. I have one. What did the mama tomato say to the baby tomato when they were crossing the road? She
What?
squished them and said, "Ketchup."
Yay. All right, one more. Someone's got one. One more, and then we'll jump in. Thank you for the tomato joke. Well, I'll jump in. I'll tell one more. Since it is election day and you all are in Georgia, back in the day when I was doing the journey, I had the privilege of meeting Max Cleland. Do you remember Max Cleland, the triple amputee war hero, Vietnam vet, ran the Veterans Administration under Carter, became Secretary of State for Georgia, went on to become a senator, wrote a book called Strong at the Broken Places. He was a very inspiring human being, and he loved to go fishing. So we went fishing up in the North Georgia mountains together, which was really special. And I was learning how to fly fish, and he had one of those rods that you could click the button and cast it out. And then with his stump, he would reel it back in, and he was having the best day fishing. And about halfway through our day, he looks over at me and he says, "Hey, Saperston." And I look back at him and he goes, "Did you hear about the one-armed fisherman?" And I said, "No." And he said, "He caught a fish this big." But you should, but it,
Still in our mouth.
Max Cleland had a sense of humor. It was cool. Okay. All right, I'm honored to be here with you all. Thank you for the levity. Thank you for the jokes. One of my favorite things to do whenever I give a speech, really, or a talk, or get invited anywhere, is to really remember one of my favorite sayings, which is, when you drink the water, remember who dug the well. And so I'm a big fan of that. I want to always give reverence and respect and gratitude. So I'm thank you from Mark, Nayeli, Anna, Ryan, Rick, Sean, everyone that has helped bring this event together and gives me the opportunity to share today. I see us in a kind of a Native American ceremony in which there is a teepee. You all are Indian chiefs. We're all sitting around a fire, and it's a huge honor and privilege to be given the talking stick today and to share in this sacred conversational circle. One thing I want to start off by talking about is that this is obviously around sales and persuasion, and there was a survey done with 5,000 Americans, and that they asked these 5,000 Americans that when you think of selling or sales, what adjectives come to mind? So 5,000 people were asked this, and 25 top adjectives. The number one runaway hit, the one that was at the top, way above everybody else. You want to guess what it is? The number one adjective when 5,000 Americans were interviewed about what adjective, when they thought of sales and selling, did they come up with? The number one answer. We're playing Family Feud, Real Estate Family Feud. Top 10 answers on the board. Number one answer.
Pushy.
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. Pushy, number one answer. Slimy, sleazy, aggressive, all below, but pushy, number one answer. Then they thought, let's come at it from another place. Instead of asking for words, let's come up with a picture, an image. So they asked the 5,000 people, what image, what picture do you see when you think of sales and selling? What image do you have in your head? Top 10 answers on the board.
Snake.
Any guesses?
Snake.
Oh my gosh, how did you get that right? No, it's not snake, but good guess. It was the number one image was a guy in a suit selling cars. So those of us that are in sales, I make up that we have to deal with the negative stereotype of what it means to be in sales. You know, people just, you know, the other words that people describe were swarmy, slimy, sleazy, aggressive. These are all things that are perceived when we tell people that we're in sales. I think there is a negative stereotype, a story that is associated with us that I know for me makes me feel just, you know, less than powerful. It shrinks me down a little bit, makes me feel a little ashamed, a little embarrassed. Like I wish I was a doctor like my brother or something else. Like, you know, that's respectable. Sales, so I was thinking about how we have a negative perception of what sales is. But when I dug a little bit deeper on, you know, in my research around sales, is that we discovered that the idea of selling and persuading isn't just unique to people that are in sales. People are persuading and selling every day, all day, in every profession. If you're a doctor or a nurse, you're selling and persuading a patient to try to do something different. If you're a teacher, you're trying to persuade your students to do the assignment. In my case, I was traveling around the country in a Volkswagen bus, and I was selling grilled cheese sandwiches at rest stops off my Coleman stove to raise money to fund my adventure. And I was getting people to buy my sandwiches. I was also selling to get interviews with the most iconic leaders. I was also selling when it was time to get sponsorship. I was also selling when it was raising, you know, $500,000 to make a movie. It was also selling to, you know, to pitch my book to a publisher. We're constantly selling. As a matter of fact, a new survey came out, or a study came out, that out of an hour in any occupation, 40% of us during that time are in some form of sales. That means that 24 minutes out of an hour of our day is persuading, cajoling, convincing, getting somebody to do something. Would you all agree to that? Nod your head if that makes sense, that you believe that that's true, that in every industry we're selling. So it's not just sales in real estate in every capacity, in every part of our life. That means in every day, every week, every month, out of an hour of our work, 24 minutes of that is spent in some way trying to convince somebody, sell somebody, persuade somebody. So it made me think that even though there is this negative kind of perception of sales, that is not empowering to me. I would imagine it's not empowering or inspiring to you. To have that perception doesn't feel good. And so for me, I want to let that go. I want to let that old story be in the past and really step into my greatness, because if in fact everyone is persuading and selling in our jobs at 40%, and that in 24 minutes out of an hour, and it's a fact, then I want to get good at this. Don't you? I just want to get good at it. I want to get good at persuasion. I want to get good at selling. I want to get good at being able to do this. I want to be good because I want to inspire my wife to be able to do something with me. I want to inspire my kids. I want to be able to, if I was in real estate, be able to sell houses. In my case, I want to be able to pitch another book. I want to get good at the ability to get people to do things. Would you say that's what you want to do, right? We all want to get good at that. It can't hurt us if we elevate our game in that way. So what I want to do here today is that I'm super excited, because what I really believe is that, we've spent 25 years studying the common traits of extraordinary people, ranging from what it is that they eat to what it is that they do to inspire themselves, what they do with communication, what they do with leadership. Like, we look at all these quadrants: spirituality, relationships. And in today's conversation, we're talking specifically around communication. And what we've deduced is that the people who get up excited and go to bed fulfilled and live extraordinary lives, and who are the top salespeople in the world, practice a discipline of upping the language and elevating the story. Upping the language and elevating the story. What I mean by that is that language is very powerful. Matter of fact, I would say that it is the most powerful thing we do as human beings, is we communicate, and we use language to create. We use language to design. We use language to create possibility. And most people who are ineffective, not humming at the highest frequency, are not producing the most extraordinary results, are really lazy and using language in the most rudimentary way, but hoping to have extraordinary results. That will not happen. In order to have extraordinary results, we need to make our language equally as extraordinary. There's an idea, when we were kids growing up, all of us had to take spelling, right? We had to learn how to spell words and take and figure that out, right? But what I've discovered is that, isn't it interesting that the idea of spelling, like taking a word and spelling a word, is very close to the idea of casting a spell, right? Spelling and casting a spell. Words are spells. We are using words to speak our possibility into existence. We're using words to inspire people, to move people, to get people to do what we want them to do. And if our language is disempowering, our language is not inclusive, our language is violent, our language is off-putting, we are going to push people away. But that is counterintuitive to what we want to do. We want to bring people closer. And to do that means to have mastery over language. That is what we do in our speaking. That's what we do in every aspect of our lives. So the goal here is to become masters at communication. Today in our time, what I want to do is I want to share 3 distinctions. We're right now working on a book called Distinctions, Up the Language, and Elevate the Story. And we want to share 3 of those that we think will 10x your ability to create sales. Then I want to share those. Then I want to open it up for questions, and I want you to be thinking about it, because really it's one thing for me to share and talk, but it's way more impactful and way more fun for us to have a conversation. And I'm here as an open book. So when I get done with sharing these 3 insights, I'd like you to think about questions that what are you struggling with right now? What are the challenges that you're facing? What are the obstacles that you're having to overcome? And then throw it up as a question, and let's see if we can't help get some clarity and some answers about that. And then I'll close out. Okay. I'm gonna grab a little bit of water. Okay, so the first distinction that I would like to talk about, that I think is really important when it comes to communication. I had the privilege of meeting with Dr. Betty Siegel, who, for those folks in Georgia, She was the president of Kennesaw State. She passed away this last year, but she was one of my favorite people. In Hawaii, they call it a Hanai family, which is a family that brings you in. It's not your birth family, but it's a family that adopts you. And the Siegels adopted me, which was really a blessing. And I got a chance to spend Christmas and Thanksgivings and go over there to the house for dinners. And Betty Siegel took Kennesaw State, which used to be a community college, turned it into a 4-year university, into a master's program, into a doctorate program, and it's one of the top universities in the country, and she did that during her tenure. So she was the longest sitting female university president in the country. She's on the board of Delta and all kinds of companies, and she's one of the most extraordinary people that I've had the privilege of knowing. And one of the things about Betty Siegel is that she was an incredible conversationalist, just one of the best conversationalists. She loved to engage people in meaty and heartfelt and inspiring dialogue. And she had a beautiful phrase that I've really taken to heart and really think about my life. And she would consider a conversation like the one we're having right now. She would say, you know, if she was here, she'd like, come take a walk with me. Come take a walk. And she saw conversations as a walk. Like, we get to go on a conversational walk today. That's what we're doing here. All of us are taking a walk and we're going on a conversational dialogue. So being at her house, waking up in the morning, catching her for breakfast, sitting down, she would just be delightful. Come have a walk with me. We'd start talking about something, and then a senator would show up, and then a famous doctor would show up, and people, and the whole table would be filled with all these amazing people. And then she would just pose questions, and we'd go on these riveting conversations talking about all kinds of things. One morning I spent the night there, and I woke up and it was just me and her having a cup of coffee in the sunroom. And I was explaining to her that I was in the process of raising money. We had met a bunch of cool people. It looks like we have a shot at making a feature film, and we needed to go raise money. And I'd asked her, she had been very successful at raising money for the university and was a leader and a visionary. And I thought, she can help me. And I said, hey, what advice do you have for me around selling people to invest in making a movie? And she said something to me that was really profound. Matter of fact, it was dislodging for me. It was actually confronting for me. It didn't feel good when I heard it, but it was so good that it transformed my life. She said, Eric, I want to share this with you. In my experience of knowing you, she said, I want you to know that I've watched you now over the last couple of years, and you are the least effective when you're selling. I said, what? What are you talking about? You're the least effective when you're selling, and you're the most effective when you're being. When you're being who you are inspiring, you are enrolling, you are impactful. People want more of what you got. But when you're trying to sell them, people are not interested. Which led us to a distinction that I'd like to share with you. The distinction is the difference between sales and enrollment. Sales is trying to convince somebody, trying to manipulate somebody, trying to get somebody to do something and pushing those people. That's where I think it gets to be pushy. That's where it gets to be schwarmy. That's where it gets to be negative. That's the archetype and the stereotype of people who are selling. Nobody wants to be sold. You don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. Nobody wants to be sold. But there was a part of me that was trying to sell people to invest in a movie. And the reality of it is that was the wrong path for me. She said, look, the idea of sales versus enrollment is way more powerful. Like when you go to a university and you're signing up for a class, you enroll in the class because you see benefit for the class. You're like, oh, I need to take that. And then I want to take that. And you enroll, you don't sign, you enroll for it. You're not being sold, you enroll. So as we embark on this journey of providing value to people in real estate, the more powerful way to do it is not sales, but enrollment. And the idea of enrollment is to create a vision that's so big that not only are you in it, but the other people are in it, and they see possibility inside of the vision you've created. They want to participate. It's not that you're trying to get them to do something. You create a vision and an idea and a possibility that's so big that everyone's like, wow, I want to be a part of that. So when you're talking to people and bringing people into a home, you're probably thinking, well, how do I create an enrollment conversation versus a sales conversation? Let me ask you, what do you think? How do you create an enrollment conversation instead of a sales conversation?
You ask more about them.
And when you say ask more about them, what does that mean? What kind of questions would you ask, for example?
Asking them, you know, what do they do for a living, or you know, the recreational events that they are into beyond, you know, working or things like that.
Great. What else? Thank you very much. What other things can you do to create an enrollment conversation? What kind of questions could you ask?
I agree with Suzette, but open-ended questions is what I would go to.
Great. And what are you trying to deduce?
You make them the hero of their own story. Right? So instead of telling your story, you help them create their story and they become the hero in it and you become the conduit for them reaching it.
Love it. Yeah, yeah. My
and
mentor,
well, I was just going to say, I think kind of talking about that enrollment, I think the point I took from that is when people are going ahead and making the decision to buy a house, they're almost already enrolling in that experience. So I think it might be trying to cater that experience to what it looks like for them and how this fits into the benefit that they see, which is why they enrolled in this in the first place. Just kind of engage them in thinking about that.
Excellent. My mentor, you know what popped into my head here is that my mentor, Tony Smith, who inspired me he was the one that when I set off on this journey to go follow the Grateful Dead and work a ski season in Aspen, he was the one that said, hey, what can you do on your trip to make it more meaningful? And it was because of him that I created, on a dare from him, that I decided I would bridge a gap between young people and elders. So he's played a significant role in my life. He passed away, but he went on to become one of the top leadership consultants in the world. And one of the things that he would tell me all the time is like, man, people are full. People are walking around with the news and with information and family and all the stressors of life, so that when people show up into my field, show up into your field, show up to go for a walk and see the house, people are filled to the brim. So I remember, I wish I had it now, but he had a pitcher of water when he was giving a lecture one day, and he had the pitcher of water filled to the top. And then he said, look, people are walking around filled to the top with this pitcher. And then what people do is as soon as somebody shows up, people start pouring more water on top of the pitcher that's full. They start projecting their story, their life, their thing on that person. And what's happening is that, and he had this visual in front of us where he's pouring water on top of an already full pitcher, and the water is just cascading over and falling on the ground. And he's like, look, in our day-to-day interactions with people, everyone is full. And the only way if I want to pour something in, I've got to take time to let stuff come out first. I've got to get more space in the pitcher. So one of the ways to do that, as you've all articulated, is to ask questions. No doubt about it. Get into their listening. Help them, because you're going to eventually pour into them, but bring down that pitcher so that their listening is higher. They can hear you. They feel. A big part of life is to give space so that people can feel seen and heard. If you're able to have your clients feel seen and heard and gotten, what a beautiful thing. It's all about, to me, the human connection, really. The transactions, in the same way that Betty Siegel was saying to me, look, you're the least effective when you're selling, because selling is about transactions. Selling is about getting the job done, getting the deal done. It's really tactical, but there's no heart in it. But yet enrollment is actually caring about the other person. It's about really genuinely wanting to be of service to that person and getting to their needs and their listening. To do that is to ask questions, And when I say to enroll, is that what I would do, and what I have done in my life is that I want somebody to be a part of what we're doing. I'm gonna ask them all kinds of questions about what they care about, what matters to them, what they're looking for, what kind of things they get involved in, what lights them up, what are their concerns. I'm gonna go down a hole, or I'm gonna interview them essentially to find out as much information as I possibly can about them. And then I'm going to create a vision based on what they've told me. I'm going to create a vision using their ideas and my ideas, but I'm going to create a vision that's so big that it inspires me and them. And they're not being sold. They're seeing what it is that they've told me, and they're starting to go, yeah, that's what I want. And they're going to choose powerfully to be involved, not being sold. That's the difference between sales and enrollment. Selling, I'm the least effective. Enrollment, that's a different story. Getting people to be able to see for themselves what's possible for them will have them want to participate way more than anything else. People are motivated by their own desire. So there was a couple things about asking questions, open-ended questions. Let me just add one more value add here in this quadrant, is that one of the things that we've discovered as filmmakers and as storytellers is how powerful asking questions are. And since I've made a movie and interviewed I've interviewed thousands of people, and we had over 500 hours of footage and had to go back and watch all that footage and study and look at how people tell stories, we realized that when I ask somebody an open-ended question, they can wander on for a while, but I don't necessarily always get the good, my friend calls it the good goo. I'm looking for the good goo. I want good goo from my conversations, and I want to be efficient with my time. So if I ask somebody a single question, that can end up, being a lot of wandering and not a lot of clarity, and I've got to kind of sit there and wait through and listen for the nuggets. But what we've discovered in our own pursuit of looking at how we can up the language and elevate the story, we discovered a new formula that we think is actually way more impactful to get very powerful information quickly and succinctly by doing this one thing. We realized that if we ask somebody a 3 things question, that will generate great information. So example, if I go to my kid who comes home, we'll use a kid example instead of a real estate one for the first part. So if a kid comes home and says, hey, what did you learn at school today? That's a single question. What did you learn at school today? The kid says nothing. You say, all right, well, what's one thing you learned at school today? The kid says, I learned if I put my peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the locker and leave it there for a few days, it'll get moldy and stink. Parents are like, all right, that was not really what I was going for, but thank you. But then if a parent says, hey, what are 3 things you've learned at school today? Now the kid has to go 1, 2, and 3. Usually 1 has an answer quickly, 2 maybe think about it, but the 3rd one usually surprises the person speaking because they got to dig down and find it. By doing that, you get it adheres to the basic tenets of storytelling. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. It has a setup, conflict resolution. It's a very powerful tool. So if you walk into, well, now if you're going to go sell a home, you're like, hey, what are 3 things you're looking for in a home? You could say, what's one thing you're looking for in a home, or what are you looking for in a home? And you could say, what's one thing? And then they answer, and then you go, well, tell me more. And you could go, tell me more. And you can dig down deeper. And that's not a bad process either. And in addition to that, I would suggest practicing and trying on the next time you're going, hey, what are 3 things you're looking for in a home? What are 3 things you're looking for in a neighborhood? What are 3 ways as a real estate agent that I could best serve you? What are 3 things that you love about this neighborhood? Asking 3 things questions is a game changer, and I believe it'll give you more information in a quicker way to assess and then be able to take that in and then use that to create a vision for them that they see possibility in. So the first distinction that I think will 10x and make a big difference on your sales and persuasive journey is knowing the distinction sales versus enrollment. I'm the least effective. I make up, we're all the least effective when we're selling, but we are the most powerful when we're enrolling. And when we're enrolling, it is who we're being because we genuinely care. We genuinely want to be of service. We genuinely want to make a difference. This is what I'm committed to. It is my context This is what I'm about. This is what I'm here for. This is what my calling is in life. And I want to make sure this happens. And I want to make sure that the person that I'm talking to's needs are taken care of. The only way to get access to what it is that they ultimately want is to ask them questions. Any questions? Any questions about that? Not yet?
I like that the three things gets them off the easy answer. Right? We can all come up with an easy answer, like to deflect really going deeper, which we sometimes face with clients, right? But the three things makes them go, okay, I got past my easy answer. You know, maybe it's the second and third answer where the true value is to help create that vision.
For sure. Great.
And it probably ties more to the why than the what once they identify it, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's so fun and it's really easy. You're going to see magic in it. I would do it in everything. I'd talk to your kids that way. I'd talk to your husband. You talk to your wife. You know, one of the things that I do with my lady is that, you know, hey, what are three things you'd like to be acknowledged for? Or here are three things I'm grateful for you. Or what are three things you find sexy about me? The conversations and questions can go anywhere, but they're so revealing and they're so moving, and it can happen very fast, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and you get what we call three things is we call them mini little TED Talks from everyday people, because it makes everyday people take their ideas and make them succinct, make them powerful, and everybody wins. And when you deliver a three things question and you're listening, the people who are sharing get to be seen and heard in a way that's very magical. That is really what I think most people want in this life, is just to be seen and heard. If you're able to do that, then you are enrolling, not selling. Okay, thank you. Second idea, second distinction that we think is very important when it comes to sales, or more importantly, into enrollment. And that is, and this is a big one. This is a significant breakthrough. The distinction I want to refer to is the distinction I versus you. Anybody want to jump in and share what they think that means? What's the distinction between I versus you?
When giving your opinion, maybe getting them more engaged by saying, it would be a good idea if you did X, versus I think it's a good idea if you do X.
Oh, interesting. So Natalie, thank you for sharing that. So that's great. So you just said that it'd be better, instead of saying I, you'd say this is what you, is that what you just said?
Yes, when making suggestions, kind of removing yourself, even though it's something that you're suggesting, instead of saying, well, I think it's a, you know, it'd be great if you did X, or I think it would be best. You can kind of say, well, you know, if you did X, you know, the outcome will probably be, you know, wonderful. You know, just throwing it out there kind of neutrally instead of saying, I think you should do something.
Oh, I see. So you're drawing the distinction between you should versus, can you do that again for me? You should versus you what?
So let's say I want to give you a suggestion about, I don't know, watering your garden 5 times a day. I'm not going to say to you, I think you should water your garden five times a day. Instead, I would say, you know, if you watered your garden 5 times a day, your flowers, I think, would look beautiful.
Excellent. Thank you, Natalie, so much. So I appreciate your courage to share. And then I'm going to I'm gonna transform this notion, or at least do my best to create another look at it, another possibility inside of this. So the difference between I versus you. So as somebody who is passionate and studies communication and loves language, what we've discovered is that language is either in the on position or in the off position. Language either inspires or it repels. Language is either inclusive or it's not. Language either brings people closer or pulls them away. Language is either violent or non-violent. some of the work that we do in our coaching sessions is all around looking at language, because all of us, me included, have inherited language from my mom and my dad and where I grew up and my experience and television and all this shit that I've accumulated, and I'm using language. And now remember what my goal is. My goal is to become more masterful with language, to realize that I'm creating and carving and designing my life based on the words that I use. My stories, if I'm using negative stories, if I'm telling disempowering stories, if I'm being victimized and telling victimized stories, my life, I'm the writer, producer, and star of my own movie. And the narrative that I use to describe my life becomes my life. I trap language it's like a video game. Whatever story I'm telling about my life is the screen that my little, character is moving around in. And if I tell a negative, disempowering story about my life, then I'm inside of that story. The only way to get out of that story is to elevate the story and tell a new story. Then I get to move up to the next level of Donkey Kong, if you will. Okay, so language is a big part of how we mold and create and design our worlds. And language either brings people in or pulls people apart. It either is inclusive or it isn't. It's either enrolling or it isn't. It's either enrolling or salesy. We want to have language be our friend. We want to use and wield language that generates the most optimal results. That being said, there's a huge distinction between I versus you. In our culture today, Natalie, and you're right in the elk of so many people. So all of us were raised in so many ways to use the word you when we describe things. Just like you said, hey, if you were going to have a plant, if you were, do this. What we've discovered is that language is either violent or non-violent. Either I'm projecting and pushing my opinion onto somebody, or I'm more enrolling because I'm using language that enables people to see themselves in it. So here's where we learn the distinction I versus you. What we did is we were getting ready to hire an IT guy for our company. We had heard really great things about this IT guy. We had just learned this distinction, I versus you. I is talking about me personally and my experience. You, when somebody goes you, it's actually violent. It's projecting my belief onto another person, even with good intentions. I mean, look, you're talking about watering plants and having flowers grow. That's a beautiful thing. So it's not negative. It's a beautiful thing that we want to have happen. But in our languages saying you, it actually becomes confronting for another person because they're not you. So let me give you an example. We have this IT guy that we're getting ready to think about hiring. We've been heard up that he's really great. We go meet him for pizza. We just learned this distinction, I versus you. And we go have dinner with this guy and he's sitting down and we're eating pizza and we kind of like this guy. And then he starts telling a story. He goes, yeah, when you're in Vegas and you drink too much and you black out and then you find yourself in a hotel room with a black eye. And, there's two guys sitting there that you don't know in the room and you don't have your wallet. And Sarah and I are looking at this guy giggling as he's telling the story going, no, we don't know. We haven't been to Vegas. We haven't blacked out. We haven't, gotten a black eye. We never woke up in a hotel room with two dudes we didn't know with our money gone. No, that was never our experience. So what we did is that moment really was comical, but it reminded us that we are not, like when somebody says, hey, when you're in Vegas or when you're in Italy or when you're whatever, cognitive dissonance happens where my brain, even though I like you, even though I'm vibing with you, even though I'm with you, as soon as you start telling me you, if it's not my experience, unconsciously or consciously, I am resisting you. I am not on board. You're telling me that it's me and it's not me. So I want to resist it. And so what I make up is that you folks who are in the enrollment business of providing homes for people, you could do everything right. You could get the wife and the husband and the kids and they're all there and the house could look beautiful and the price is right and everything's rocking for you. But if you are using you language when describing anything in that field, they can be sitting there going, that's not me. They're not listening. They're rejecting it. They're rejecting the information. They're having to try to fight through the fact that that's not them. And it's not necessarily they're saying it or that it's conscious. I'm saying that we all have been there where if somebody starts youing all over us, we start to kind of back off a little bit. And what I want is that I want you to do all the things right, and I don't want you to lose a sale because your language is actually disempowering. This is how important language is. You could do everything right, but if you're not conscious of what you're saying, you could be repelling people, you could be pushing people away, you could actually be ruining this opportunity based on the language that you're using. You want it to be more inclusive. So for example, why you versus why I is important is you is selling, you is pushing, you versus I is, hey, in my experience, this is what happened. If I had a plant here and I wanted it to grow, I would water it. If this was my house, I would have that pool over there. If this was my house, this is what I would do. If you say that, if you talk about what you would do, hey, I'm in the real estate business, and if this was my yard, this is what I would do, then that person gets to listen to you. There's no resistance, there's no rejection. It's what you would do. But if you're brilliant and you're smart and you've done the research and you've done the inquiry and you've asked them enough questions that you know what it is that they're about, then you could turn around and say, hey, if this is what I would do, because you know that what I would do is what they would do, because you've already heard what they're interested in. So if this is what I would do, they're like, yeah, I would do that too. If they heard you say that, like, yeah, and how do you know? Like, they would feel good about that. They feel connected to you. They feel warmed by the situation because you're using language that's inclusive. You're telling a story that they get to watch and hear and see, and they get to see themselves inside of your story. That is the distinction of enrollment. Creating a vision so big that they see themselves inside of it. But that only happens if you're using the word I versus you. Any questions about that before I go on to the third one?
Okay.
Where would you want to incorporate we or us in the I storytelling to make them feel like we're on a team together?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for that. And so there's no doubt about it. We, us, those are really beautiful ideas, right? You want to be inclusive, but you also want to be cautious, because are we really a we? Are they on board for a we? Are they, it's like, wait a second, I don't know you yet. Are we like, so for me, I want to be really clear that are we really a we yet before I even use the word we? Because if I start saying we out the gate, they're like, hey, I don't even know you. I'm not even on board with you. I've got this other agent that I really kind of like. Like, there could be a whole lot of things resisting that statement. The more powerful thing you can do is just stay in your own pocket, stay in your own world. Like, hey, I listened to you. I heard all the things that you care about. I'm going to repeat back to you what it is that I've heard you say. So I know that I'm really vibing with you. I genuinely want to serve you. I'm here to be of service to you. I want you to be able to find the home of your dreams. That's what I'm here for. So I want to learn everything about you. And then I'm going to exceed your expectations to find what it is you're looking for. And then maybe at the end, at some point, you'll intuitively know when it's a we, but I wouldn't throw out we's and stuff until we have a real clear understanding that they're on board as a team. Other than that, I'm just talking about I, but when I'm talking about I'm not just bullshitting and just randomly talking. I'm using an I example that I know is going to be inspiring to them.
Thank you.
I'm going to use an experience. Yep, I'm going to use an experience for me that I know touches, moves, and inspires them.
But Eric, I think I have a point too. Maybe you end up with an argument with a friend or a loved one. You can say, you really made me mad when you blah, blah, blah. I think at that point, you're just going to have somebody on the defensive, where if you come to a place of love and say, you know what, I really felt hurt when this happened. From there, hopefully your feeling can be met with love, received with love, rather than have somebody on that defense.
Excellent. Well said. That's exactly. So in the art of interpersonal relationships and conflict, right? What you just said, everybody here on the call intuitively knows, you did this to me. You are a jerk. You. And anytime we do that, people are just more aggravated. It's like putting kerosene on a fire. But if you're able to turn around and say, hey, in that experience, this is how I felt, this is what it meant to me, this is how it occurred to me, whatever. Then people get a chance to hear your story. They get a chance to see how it impacted you, and then they get to then choose how they want to be. Right? We want people to choose powerfully. That's what we want people to, like, if I'm your friend and you're having a tough time and you're blaming me and you're shaming me, I don't want to be supportive of that. But if you're taking responsibility and you're owning your part of it, then I could hug you and love you and support you and take you out for a beer or whatever. Great distinction. Yeah, I is super powerful. It's amazing. Please do this for me in the next week. For fun, listen to the people that you come in contact with and see how many times people are describing a phenomenon using the word you when you have no experience whatsoever when they're talking about that. Just notice in other people so that it can alert you to start eradicating that in your own life. It's going to take discipline. That's what we do on these coaching calls, is listen, and then we hear a phrase, we trap the phrase, and then we go back and we look at it and we start eliminating disempowering phrases and replacing them with phrases that are inclusive and empowering and uplifting. And it is having a profound impact on everyone, including me and everyone that we're doing this with. Okay, so thank you for that. Great insight. Okay, here's the third thing that I think is will help 10x and make your enrollment experience around providing homes for people significant. This is the distinction between trying and committed. What do you think is the difference between trying and committed?
Trying, a lot of times people stop trying. If you're committed, you see it through.
Great. Yeah, so trying to me is kind of on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not powerful and 10 being powerful. Trying is like a 1 or 2. It's just maybe when I was a little kid, I don't want to just be a hater on the word trying. Like I remember when I was a kid, and like I got to learn how to ride a bicycle, and they're like, hey, just try, right? Just try something you've never done before. Okay, cool. Or I get that there's a good reason to use the word try at one point in our lives. What's that?
Mm-hmm. There really isn't a try. You either do it or you don't. You can attempt something, but if you tried to pick up a pen, you can't really try to pick up a pen. You either pick it up or you don't pick it up, right? So I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to kind of be hard on the word try.
Great. Well, I mean, I'm super hard on it, but I wanted to be sensitive a little bit in case some people were really big fans of try.
Well, no, I mean, I think we're all adults here, no need for sensitivities.
For me, I think of try in a more passive. I think it's more of a passive word, and committed is a bit more assertive, where you're taking more responsibility to see it through, no matter what the obstacles.
Excellent. So here's what
action.
Yes. Yeah, the commitment would you say inspires action?
Evokes it. To say that you're committed means that you are in action.
Great. Yeah. So I believe that, yeah. So what I've heard, so I've been hanging out now in the Keller Williams world a little bit, and been having the privilege of talking to lots of different people. And why I wanted to bring this distinction to your attention is that what I've heard more often than not, and I've heard it multiple times, so that's what I do, is I study the commonalities of things. I'm listening and I'm looking for it to show up there, and it showed up there, and it showed up there, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's starting to look like a theme. And one of the themes that I keep hearing is that people are like, if you're talking to a client, you're like, hey, I'm trying to find the right house for you. I'm trying to do this for you. I'm trying to do this for you. I'm trying to find you the right house. I'm trying to take care of your needs. I'm trying to do whatever. And what I want to do is up the language and elevate the story, because I want you folks to be seen as powerful, and for people to have allegiance to you and want to have you be their guy, their gal or their guy to get a home. And so what I want you to do is, when you're like, hey, look, I'm committed. I'm not trying to find you the right house. I'm committed to finding you the right house. To me, that is about enrollment, right? Trying is like, I don't know, trying is just weak. It doesn't sound very powerful. It doesn't come across very powerful. If I'm interviewing you and 5 other real estate consultants, and you're telling me that you're trying to do something, I can pretty much rule you out, because I want the person who says to me they're committed to doing it. It's very simple, but the word trying has always been really weak to me. Just that anybody that's trying to do anything. I'm not trying to write a book. I'm committed to writing a book. I'm not trying to give a speech. I'm giving a speech today. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm either in or I'm out. Either I'm 100% or I'm a no. Either, it's really clear for me. And if you engage with one of your clients and you want to take care of them, man, I want to be looking at them going, look, I'm committed to serving you. I'm committed to making sure that you're happy. I'm committed to making sure that you get what you need. I want this to be a joyous experience for you. I want to eliminate doubt. I want you to feel like this is right for you. I want you to choose powerfully, and I want to be right there celebrating with you. That's the allegiance that I have. That's the commitment that I have. To me, if you're walking around with commitment, you are going to 10x your sales way more than trying. It says volumes about who you are to another person. The whole thing for me is getting into the listening of somebody else. That's all that I'm about. I want to use words, phrases, stories, ideas that I know are going to impact the other person. Now, it's a big risk for me to just guess what the other person wants. I've got to interview them. I got to do due diligence. I got to figure out. I got to ask tough questions. I got to grill down and really know them, so then I can reflect back to them who they want, what they want, and how I can be of service to them. But it takes something. It takes full commitment to do it. So I would eradicate try out of the vocabulary. So where are we? So to recap a little bit, sales is dodgy. Sales has a negative representation. I don't feel good thinking that I'm selling something. I don't want to be perceived as a schwarmy car salesman. None of that, right? You don't want to be that. You folks are providing a tremendous service. So one, I want to eliminate this idea of any type of negative association or feeling like I'm in sales or like I don't want to be too pushy and I don't want to be blah blah. I want to trap that, and I want to grab it and I want to push it in the back and go, okay, look, that's an old disempowering story that doesn't serve me. And up the language and elevate the story. That whole story about what sales is not inspiring. It's not uplifting. It doesn't make me want to go do my best. It's just, and people don't want to be sold to. It's just icky. So taking that away, I realize in my life that everybody is selling. I'm selling I'm selling my lady to go on vacation somewhere, or I'm selling somebody to, or not selling. I'm enrolling my wife to go on vacation somewhere. I'm enrolling a publisher to get part of a book that we want to write, or I'm enrolling everybody, right? You're enrolling everybody. And I do believe that survey that 40% out of an hour is spent, that's 24 minutes out of an hour. I'm doing something where I'm actually trying to get somebody to do something. The question is, how do I want to do that? Do I want to do it through sales and through pushing and through violent communication and trying to get my needs met at all costs and ram my agenda over people where they don't feel inspired or uplifted, but maybe I get what I want, but many people around me lose in the process? Or can I be more enrolling and speak my possibility into the world, use inclusive language, bring people in, and make sure that I create a possibility that serves the other person so much so that they want to be a part of it. They're enrolled in the idea. That's just so much more beautiful. It's a win-win-win for everybody. It's a much healthier way to move through the world. And I know that for me, it gives me a greater joy and full self-expression, and I want that for you as well. Okay, second thing about that is the distinction between I versus you. It is uncanny how many people describe a phenomenon that they're having personally, but use the word you to describe it. They're not bad people. They're not trying to be off-putting. They're not trying to use nonviolent communication. They're good people. They don't know that they're using language that actually is pushing the other person away. So part of our work is to get clear about that and then recalibrate that and use the word I, so that I get to talk about my experience and then you get to be enrolled based on my experience. And then I know in the context of wanting somebody to be enrolled in an exchange like a house, I want to listen to them so deeply that I'm able to reflect back to them their vision, but I'm going to use my I to do it so that they get to go, yeah, that's me too, versus me projecting onto them what I think they want. No assumptions, ask lots of questions. And the third thing on this is the distinction between trying and being committed. I've heard it over and over and over again as I've hung out with the Keller community that people use the word trying a lot, and it just feels weak to me. It just feels less than powerful. It just doesn't feel like I want everyone here to be the most powerful they can be. I want them to be in their power so that when they're talking to people, it's who you're being. That's enrollment. It's who you're being, not what you're saying. It's who you're being. So you want to be powerful, and then and by being powerful, you're saying, look, man, I'm committed to this because that's who I'm being. I'm not trying to do anything. Trying is weak. Being committed is I'm all in, and I'm here to be of service to you. Okay, those are 3 distinctions. We have probably 40 of them to go through, but those are the 3 for today. What I really want to do is really open this up now, because it's one thing for me to talk, but it's another thing for us to have some opportunity for some more Q&A and questions. I want to be of service to the best of my ability and answer some of the challenges and needs that you have. So let's take a few minutes and please reach down inside and ask something that's really meaningful to you, that you're struggling with, that's a challenge for you, and let's see if I can answer it, and if I can't, maybe the collective team could answer it.
Eric, I have just an observation. In our world, we work with buyers and sellers, helping them craft offers and counteroffers. And I think the idea of I versus you is particularly applicable there, because I've heard agents have challenges with their clients because they're not using I, they're using you. They're saying, you should do this, you should do this. Versus if it were my house, here's how I would respond.
Right. So beautiful, right? What a distinction. Instead of you should do this, you should do this. This is a game changer in your business. This is a game changer. If I'm sitting in a house right now, I'm not going to say you should do this, or you could do that, you could, no way. I'd be like, hey, if this was my house, this is what I would do.
They'll feel like you're on their team if you enroll them versus telling them.
Right. No telling. What was it? Is it Makeba? Makeba, thank you. Yeah, that
Makeba, yes.
More Makeba, thank you. I apologize. Makeba. Yeah, that's what he's saying is exactly that. That way before I would start using you and using we and inclusive language, I would do more of that I stuff so that I see their body language. They're relaxed. They're relaxed. They're touching my arm. They feel like, I can tell when somebody feels like we're family. Right? I can tell when we're starting to gel in a way that they're with me, then I could use the word we, but I wouldn't, the whole thing for me, the 4 agreements, right? Make no assumptions. That is a killer in everything, like in every relationship. If I'm assuming that I just don't want to assume. It's really arrogant for me to assume anything. I want to ask, I want to check in, I want to make sure you're with me, and then use language that's appropriate as we grow together on this journey. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, another comment, Eric. Another comment that I kind of just came up with. When you were talking about you and I, you versus I, what came to mind for me was, if I'm trying to get feedback from my client, I would want to get, let's say I would want to get their opinion first before I projected mine on there. I always come in with an idea of what they should do because I'm the expert, but I think it's important for me to find out where their head is at about the particular topic, and then, kind of nurse that a little bit and then put my professional spin on it and see if, just kind of see where their head is at, because if they already agree with me, then we don't need to really have a big conversation about it. I agree. Absolutely. That's what we're going to do. Next topic. So we don't waste unnecessary time.
I love it. What you said is spot on. And then because I'm in the business of just catching language and wanting to look at language, here's one that you just used that in my research and in my understanding is a very dicey word. And you all tell me if it's true or not. Everyone just kind of sign it, nod your head if you think it's true. So I appreciate that that you do, that you're a professional, that you think about the needs of the other. You've got a battle plan or a game plan, you got some good ideas, and then you're smart. You're going to do an exchange, and you don't want to make an assumption. You want to check in with them and see where they are before making any suggestions. That's beautiful. That's the distinction in moment. You're listening to them and then creating a reflection back to them what they're hearing, so they get a chance to be part of it. The only thing that I heard that kind of just was for me, I feel like a cartoon. When we were kids, there was some person that would climb up a tree and then hang out and wait for the lion, cartoon lion to go by, and then they would drop that, the blanket, not a blanket, but it was like a what is it?
Net.
My brain. What was it? Net? Yeah, the net with the rocks on it or something. It was like whatever they were dropping. The tiger totally get away. It was like this tiny little flimsy little thing, but it was a cartoon. But they dropped the cartoon net on the lion, right, and they trapped the lion. I feel like that's what we do with language. Is I'm sitting up in a tree and we're watching conversations go by, and if I hear something, I'm dropping that net on a word or an idea, and then really there's no judgment, just for us to kind of look at it and go, hey, in a world of upping the language and elevating the story, in a world of it being inspiring or disempowering, is it inclusive? Is it repelling, right? Where does that word sit on the spectrum? So that being said, you were just talking, and I'm gonna drop down. And what you said was that you're the expert, and you know what we should, like what you should do, like what they should do, right? That's what you said. I'm an expert, and I know what they should do, right?
Right.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I got that
Right.
So, okay, good. So the word "should" to me, we all kind of know this. Like the word "should," like one of my friends he was in Dr. Phil for being one of the top therapists in the country, and you've probably heard this, but he was one of those pioneer guys that said, "Quit shoulding all over yourself." That was one of his phrases. Quit shoulding all over yourself. The idea is that should to me, the way and again, everyone has their own perception, and this is semantics and it's linguistics, and everybody can have their own opinions. But what I look at is that when anybody tells me, if there's a should, and you didn't tell anybody, you just said that you should know, and you were telling that for yourself. So I want to be respectful that you weren't going into a room telling them what they should do. But I just want to draw with attention to it. So I just want to be respectful that that's not what you were doing. But I just want to use it as an example that the word "should" to me, if I thought about, if we were going to survey 5,000 Americans and said, hey, what image do you have? Like, what picture do you have when somebody says the word "should" to you? I feel like it's this. I feel like somebody's going like this to me.
Preaching.
Right? Like somebody, yeah, and just pointing a finger. It carries with it judgment, shame. I never feel good when somebody, you should, like, I can't speak for everybody, but I know when anybody starts telling me what I should or shouldn't do, it feels terrible. Matter of fact, we were having this conversation the other day about the word "should." Like, extraordinary people, if I look at my studies of the last 25 years studying extraordinary people, the most extraordinary people in the world never tell me what I should do, ever. That's not their gig. Extraordinary people are never telling me what I should do. Extraordinary people are asking me questions, guiding me back to myself, and going, hey, what are you going to do? What do you think you're going to do? They're always giving me the empowered position. The people who should be the most are cynical, resigned, angry, like people aren't very empowered. I didn't do it, but this is what you should do. Like it's always the shoulders aren't really, they're not my friends, really, the people that should on me, because they're not coming from an empowered place. The people that I want to hang out with know that intuitively I know what's best, and they're going to use questions to guide me back to myself so that I can better articulate what I want to do. But they would never tell me what I should do. So "should" to me is one of those words that is so dangerous in the lexicon of language. I would never want to tell, hey, you should do this. And if you're sitting there in a home and you're like, you should do this, I would never say that ever. Because then somebody's like, wait a minute, I don't want to be shit on. So I would say, hey, you could do this.
Yeah.
Could is a possibility. Could is enrollment. Like, you could do this. You don't have to do this. You should. Should is like, nah. Sarah's best friend, I love this. Sarah's best friend, who lives in Asheville, North Carolina, when she drives around and somebody cuts her off or somebody does something that she thinks is inappropriate, she's not a honker. She doesn't flip people off. She goes like this. and just shoulds on them, just drives by with the finger and just points at them. I know that it just makes people just feel so small when she's just like, I just love it. So shoulding just makes me feel small. Could is a possibility. And then again, I'd go back to the distinction I versus you, and I wouldn't even say could, I would say this is what I would do. This is what I would do if this was my place instead of you could, but I definitely wouldn't use should. I would say you could do this and use language to create possibility. Okay, one more observation or question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, revisiting the we statement. And I've heard, I think in some class of language class I've taken that in order to help gain trust with your client, so like let's say it's you're just meeting them and you're having either a seller or a buyer consultation, is it too soon to say like once we find your home that you like, or once we go under contract? You know, I'm like, my understanding was to use, even though you've just met this person, but in that context, to use the word we to start gaining some trust. Is that too soon?
You know, I think it's a situation by situation thing, and you'd have to use your intuition to know best. Me, if I want to revisit kind of what we're doing, let's say you and I are getting together for the first time, right? We're dating, we're getting to know each other, right? You know, it's like, I could jump to say we, but I don't know if you're on board with me yet. I don't know if you like me yet. I don't know if you've chosen me yet, right? So if I say we and you haven't chosen me yet, then you're kind of going to be like, wait, this guy's going a little too fast for me.
True.
Right? So
I just think that's different when you're talking to a potential client though. I don't know.
Well, use your instinct. So let's just play around with this. We're all just, we're all just making it up as we go along, and we're using our intuition to guide us, right? So if you feel comfortable saying we, you heard it in a class somewhere that said, hey, when we're talking out, hey, when we go into contract, when what was it? When we find you a house, what's that? Is that what it is? When we find you
when we find you a home, and when we go into contract, yes.
So let's just play a game called Up the Language and Elevate the Story. What's more powerful to you? Hey, you and I just meet. Hey, when we find you a home and when we go under contract, life's going to be, what would be the next day? What do you say after that? When we do this, what finish the sentence?
Then you will end up closing on the home of your dreams.
Okay, so when we find a home and when we close on it, you're going to end up having the home of your dreams. That's option A. Option B is, hey, I know we just met. I'm super excited that we get a chance to be here today. And I am committed to finding you the home of your dreams.
I like the second one you just said.
Right?
Yeah.
Second one's way more powerful, right? The second one lands, right? The second one is just, look, I'm committed to helping you find the home of your dreams. Boom. Now you know a lot about me in that sentence. You know that I'm a committed person. You know that I'm on it. You know that I'm ready. I'm using language that's super powerful. I'm ready to go. Me, if I'm like, hey, when we find, well, really, I'm thinking, if I'm being cynical, I'm like, hey, lady, when you say we find, that's why I'm hiring you. I'm not hiring you. We find. You're supposed to find me the home.
Right. Okay. Got it. That's why I asked the question. Thank you.
Great. Right? So you would never know that, but I'm over here kind of resisting it. You follow? Like, wait a second.
Right.
You're supposed. That's why I'm giving you a percentage of the deal is for you to find me the home. Why do I have to find the home? But I'm not saying that. I'm not articulating that. I'm just sitting over here kind of. I'm playing a game called I'm looking for the ways in which I don't like this person. And then there's one. Okay. And then nice to meet you, but I'm not interested, right?
Right.
I
don't know what happened. Like, what did I do? Yeah.
Right. I think everyone on the call is really amazing. Really, all you all are. You love what you do. You're committed to being of service. You want to help people find homes. You're really in a noble profession. And what I'm committed to doing is helping everybody use language that actually creates the most powerful outcome for everyone, and not use language that actually pushes people away. And it can all happen without you even knowing it. What a tragedy that you've done all this work, you created this thing, you found the right home, you brought them all together, and then your language actually sent them away. but your heart was in the right place the whole time.
Right. Thank you.
I want your heart to be in the right place, and I want your language to match your heart, and then anything's possible.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have found
Yes.
myself lately using the term work with you. I look forward to working with you because I feel like we're together and I don't want to seem like I'm leaving them out of the process, but maybe that's not the right, maybe I am not being as powerful as I could be by saying work with, or maybe they don't want to work like what you've said. I don't want to work with you. I want you to do all the work.
Excellent.
Okay.
Is that Lamar? Is that your name? Who just spoke?
Lisa Marie.
I'm sorry, it popped up Lamar right after you. What was your name? I'm sorry?
Lisa Marie.
Lisa Marie. Excellent. Okay, so let's break that down. So would you say that phrase again for me? That I'm looking forward to working with you?
Yes. Yeah, I say it in emails a lot lately. It's something that I've just started saying. I've been doing this for 20 years and I don't know, I just, have started saying things differently for some reason, and maybe it's not really right. So I have been using the term work with, thinking that I'm enlisting them in, this process that we're going to go through together, like that I'm including them by saying work with. But maybe what I'm saying is I guess I am expecting them to do some work. There is a level of commitment that I do expect from them as well. So I don't know, just in terms of work with, how do you feel about that in terms of, your powerful language that you're trying to instill upon us?
What I'm committed to instilling, not trying to instill.
Right.
He's consistent.
Very.
Okay, so let's look at that. So in this email that you have you already collaborated? Have you already met with them and this is a follow-up email, or is this an email going out to them that they've never met you?
Sometimes I've met with them and sometimes I have not. Sometimes it's just like, the end of an email, like I've had an introduction through email from another client, or they've reached out to me through my website or whatever. So typically they've reached out to me first and then I'm responding and I'm finishing with, I look forward to working with you. Or I might say that in completing a telephone conversation or even an in-person meeting. But
okay, so let me break it down. Excellent. Let me break it down. Let me break it down how you'd asked me for my opinion on it. Okay, a couple things. So here's something that I love that Sarah, my wife, does. She catches me all the time, and it's really kind of goofy and fun. And you could just see that this idea of upping the language and elevating the story is a full-time game in which it's really nice to have lots of people around me that are playing the game, because we're all of us have language that we're using that's disempowering without even knowing it. And the only way for us to get access to it is for somebody who's also involved in the commitment to up the language and elevate the story, reflecting back to me what it is I'm saying. So here's what so Sarah, my lovely, beautiful, incredible partner, who is awesome. Every once in a while, she'll walk, and she'll be dressed in just stunning. And I will say, honey, you look beautiful. And she goes, do I look beautiful or am I beautiful? Right? Of course, I want to turn around and say, baby, you are beautiful. You don't look beautiful. You are beautiful. That's a big distinction. You're saying, hey, I look forward to working with you in the future. So let's break that down. In your context, you've already met with them. You two examples. One, you've already met with them, and the other one, you're sending an email. So let's go with the person that you've already met. I look forward to working with you is kind of silly. You've already begun working with them. So you're using words that say, I look forward to working with you like it's in the future, but in reality, you've already begun the journey working with them, right? Does that make sense? What I'm saying, like, it's not like I look forward to working with you. I'm already working with you. I've already spent the day with you. So language to me wants to be more actionable. I look forward to working with you is in the future, but right now in this moment, I enjoyed the heck out of being with you today, learning about you, learning what you want, and I'm committed to finding the home of your dreams. To me, that's way more powerful than I'm looking forward to working with you because you're already doing it. And then the idea, I think your instincts were absolutely spot on around working. You know, who wants to work? Nobody wants to work. I don't want to use the word work. I mean, yeah, they have a responsibility. Yes, they're going to collaborate. Yes, they're going to have things that they've got to respond to. It is a collaboration, right? I'm excited to be on this journey with you.
Okay.
Right. So instead of I'm looking forward to working with you versus I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Just which one sounds better to you? Which one's more uplifting? Which one's more empowering? Right. I'm excited. I'm excited to be on this journey with you versus I'm looking forward to working with you. Saying, oh, okay. Was that helpful? Did that answer your thoughts,
I like
my dear?
that. It's my total new sign off.
Mine too.
Well, that's a good segue for me to sign off here. Let me share just my closing thoughts with y'all. One, it is just an absolute privilege to be with you. Thank you, Mark, Nayeli, and the whole crew. I want to also thank Shelter Mortgage. I didn't get a chance to do that at the top of this. When I drink the water, remember who dug the well. Thank you for supporting this event and for bringing me on to speak today. I really love your tribe. I've really enjoyed meeting people inside of this world. It's mutually uplifting. And when I get the privilege of choosing where I get to spend my time and who I want to support in the world. And I couldn't think of anything more noble than what you do. I just know in my life, looking at what it means to be human, is that one of the great things about being human, one of the necessary things about being human, one of the most meaningful things about being human, one of the safest things and nurturing things about being human is to be able to have a home. You folks create home. You folks are people that bring people to home. It's such a beautiful act. You're well bigger than sales. You're well bigger than all of the things that are swarming. You folks are really of service in a profound way. You help people sell their homes and you help people buy their homes. And homes are so important. Humor, laughter, growth, rituals, love, nurturance. So many beautiful things come out of a home. And sometimes really shitty things come out of homes too. But even then, it's still, you know, I'd rather have shitty things and still have a home than having shitty things and no home. So home is still better than, you know, it's such a beautiful service that you folks are providing. And I just want to share this. For those who've seen me speak, I've usually opened with this, but I want to close with it today. And that is this poem that I came across by M.S. Mome, who said, "This is our base, our favorite place, our beginning and an end to each day. It is our triumph and our glory that these walls tell stories as they soak up all we do and say. This is our space. Each corner is laced with items we've chosen with care, from sweet scented candles to fixtures and handles. The atmosphere is just right to share. So near or so far, wherever we are, no matter where we choose to roam, we live and we learn, but we always return. This, the place we call home."
Eric, thank you so much for being here. Let's give him a digital round of applause.
Honored. Thank you all so much. Please let me know. Please stay in touch if you want anybody to stay in touch. EricSaperston.com is a good resource. Social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. If anybody's interested in pursuing some coaching and doing deeper work around language and guiding principles, I'm absolutely here to help. And I just wish everybody the most blessed and wonderful day.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you for being
all.
here.